This video was made possible by the EA Creator Network. And the footage captured here today was off a work-in-progress build and not the final release of the game. What's going on, everybody? My name is C4. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to break down everything you need to know about College Football 25's coaching skill tree in Dynasty Mode. You may think you know a little bit about skill trees from NCAA Football 14 to the skill trees that we've had in Madden the last couple years, but College Football 25 skill trees are an entirely different beast. We're going to use Coach Tom Savage here as an example. He's already an A+ prestige. He's already level 50. It's from our Florida Gators rebuild, which if you haven't checked that out, go check it out right now. And while we're throwing some plugs, if it's your first time stopping by and you learned something from today's video, a little subscribe would very much be appreciated. We're trying to blow the channel up here this year. A like, a comment for the YouTube robots. Maybe comment other guides you would like me to break down from Dynasty Mode. That would be pretty cool. But you think you know about coaching skill trees. But in College Football 25, once you reach level 50, which you can see right up there in the top right corner, that is the max level. Those credits, I have 11 credits. That is how you spend points to unlock different attributes. Sometimes they're 5 points, sometimes they're 8 points, sometimes they're 12 points. But once you reach level 50, you no longer earn those points. I am at max level for my coach, and I have about 35%, maybe 30% of the abilities unlocked. I don't even have the top CEO one, which I will break down just so we know what it is. You have to win 2 national championships to even unlock it, and it costs 30 points out the gate just to unlock it. But you have to be very informed with how you spend your points, because not only can you not unlock everything, but there's no way to refund what you spend. So you have to make the most informed decision possible while spending your points, because it is a full-on commit. The only other way out is get a retire coach, and you start from the very beginning. So I have done a full max level coach, and I'm going to break down what I've learned, what I think could be the meta, and I also will highlight the mistakes that I made and what I wish I could have done differently. So first things first, when you start your dynasty in College Football 25, you have to select a backstory for your head coach, where you can go motivator, recruiter, and tactician. Now I've done dynasties where I've selected all 3, so I'll give you guys a quick rundown on like the best aspects of each one of these backstories, and then I'll break down my favorite. First, we have motivator. And the best things you get out of the motivator tree is you get better in-season XP gains. So every time a player hits a specific game day milestone or season milestone, he's going to get that much more XP, which goes back into player development. You're going to get injury boosts so your players are less hurt, or if they do get hurt, the recovery time's not as long. And you get a gigantic bump in off-season XP training. So at training camp, that last little bit where you guys are going to have huge growth before the start of a new season, you get a lot more bigger bumps from the motivator tree. We have the recruiting tree, which is going to give you quicker scouting. It's going to give you more recruiting hours. It's going to give you better visits during your boosts. It's going to make your pitches that much better to players. It just makes the entire recruiting process, I don't want to say easier, because you still have to earn and grind and spend all the points appropriately. And there's broken down for every single position, like quarterbacks, running backs, wide receiver, tight ends, O-line, D-line, linebackers, DBs, and special teamers. But anything that makes recruiting a little bit easier is always going to be good in my books. And then lastly, we have tactician backstory. Now, this is essentially where you're going to get your big player attribute boost. If you've played Madden Dynasty over the last couple of years, this is very similar like the head coaching skill tree in Madden Dynasty. This is where, you know, as you work your way through the tree, some of the bigger upgrades are going to be short and medium accuracy buffs to your quarterback, catching buffs to your wide receivers and tight ends, finesse move and pursuit buffs to your edge rusher, outside linebackers, power move and tackle buffs to your D tackles, man and zone coverage buffs to your defensive backs. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to find that the most appealing backstory. But for my personal opinion, and understanding that each one of these has pros and cons that could be appealing to different people, but I would suggest, under the assumption that you're most likely starting a dynasty for a program that you need to build up, I do think you get the most bang for your buck in terms of rebuilding a program from the recruiter backstory. So this is what it's going to look like right when you start your dynasty. Now, we went with the recruiter background, but if you went with motivator, you'll start up here on the skill tree. If you want tactician, you'll start down here on the bottom, but you get 5 points. They throw you 5 points right away. And for recruiter, I think just, you know, what position are you going to have to try to prioritize the most in your first recruiting cycle? Like, if you clearly are going to need a quarterback, if you clearly need to bump up the offensive line, that's what I did in my big Florida Gators rebuild. Our O-line was terrible. So the first thing, I honestly, above all, I got to the very bottom and unlocked all 4 of 4 abilities here in block. And that's what we'll start with here for this little Tulane example. But as you see, elite versions of every single aspect of the skill tree have to be unlocked by challenges throughout your Dynasty mode. Like, we are not even going to have a chance at unlocking this section until we sign 2 top 5 recruiting classes and spend 50 points in the recruiter archetype. Again, this is just another element to not being able to spend your points and unlock everything, because if you really want to get to the good stuff, you're going to have to invest a significant amount of points into this one aspect, which is just going to really hinder your ability to eventually start spending in talent developer and strategist. And you can also get motivator and tactician, the 2 other starting points. You can eventually get them even if you choose recruiting as your background. And as you saw at the very beginning with my level 50 coach from Florida, I still didn't have enough to get the CEO, where you had to spend 100 in a tree and win 2 national championships to unlock it. We have win 5 playoff games and spend 75 to get program builder. We have all these ones for talent developer, 2 players in the first round, 25 in motivator, 25 in recruiter. You have architect, which is solid, win 4 rivalry games, 25 in motivator, 25 in tactician. I will say, in summary, the cap right now is level 50. I wouldn't hate them opening that up a little bit and capping it at 100. And just little setting things that also relate to your coaching skill tree. You can control the speed that you earn XP. For this example, just because I want to quickly be able to show you how I spend my points, we're going to go with fastest. But usually I think normal works out pretty well. I got 10 seasons with my Florida Gators, and I hit max coach rating on year 10, and we had a lot of success. So I think normal or faster wouldn't be a terrible spot. I have no idea, unless you're planning on doing a 50-year dynasty, why you would go below normal. You also, too, if this is all overwhelming for you, you can turn on coach auto progression and it will spend the points for you. But come on, watch this video, learn how to spend, what to spend on, and you'll be good. I got your back. First thing I do want to just get out of the way, because it is so difficult and you're not going to have to worry about it for a very long time, is the CEO aspect of your skill tree. I just unlocked it here in a little burn through of 2 undefeated seasons for the Tulane Green Wave. I just want to show you what is in this unlock and if it's worth conserving your points to go all in on CEO, or like I did when I'll show you my example of my level 50 Florida Gator coach, of spending them all elsewhere and just bypassing this very difficult skill tree to unlock. So as you can see, every other purchase price for new abilities is like 10, 15 points, 20 for program builder, but it is 30 out the gate just to even unlock CEO. So we'll spend that here. Ooh, that's spicy. Let's look at what you could get. You get first round projected players are less likely to leave for the NFL. That's somewhat valuable. Haven't had that situation come up. I've done about 15 seasons. I've never really had a first rounder that even have an opportunity to try to convince to stay. Spend a second persuade on a player if the first fails. This is for the transfer portal. That's not bad. Home field advantage effects are lower at rival stadiums. That actually wouldn't be too bad of a upgrade, especially if you hate these squiggly lines like I do. Able to see other schools at-risk players on my school. That's not bad for recruiting. Players start hot in a top 5. That's not bad as well for gameplay. 1-year extension when facing being fired. Again, to unlock CEO for how difficult it is, I don't see a lot of value in that one. Chance at an instant commit when offering a scholarship. That is probably the best ability. Dream School. That would be easily, I would say, the number 1. Discount on coach abilities when another coach has the same ability. That's not too bad. Depending on your coordinators, increase all skill group caps for 1 by rising seniors. I would say in CEO, that would be the one that you would want. And even then, that's still, it's an unknown variable. What is the percentage chance? If that was 50% chance, I would almost say that's worth it to save your points and go up to CEO. But the fact that there's not a tangible number for how high of a chance that is, I don't even think if we unlock it, it tells us. So, I don't know. I think CEO might be a little overrated. Again, understanding you can't unlock everything, and it's already very difficult to unlock this one. So before you get spending all your points like crazy, you need to commit to what you want to be as a coach. I want to be a recruiter. So one thing, obviously, we do need to get our 2 top 5 recruiting classes so that we can unlock down here the elite recruiter abilities, but that just will come with time. But if you want to be the best recruiter you possibly can be, you want to get strategist, because the strategist ability is also going to give you buffs towards recruiting. And to unlock it, you need to win 4 bowl games, which we have done, and you need to spend 25 points in tactician, which is not the end of the world. Costs 10 points to unlock it right out the gate. And these abilities, as we talked about in the opening, when you're selecting kind of the base of your coach, this is where you're going to get bump ups to your player stats. Like as you go through the quarterback one, eventually you go all the way down to tier 4. That is short and medium accuracy boost for wide receivers and tight ends. The last one is catch and traffic boost. DBs, you get man and zone coverage. Linebackers, you get man and zone coverage, pursuit, finesse move. D-line, you get finesse move, power move, tackle. They're all very, very valuable. And it's not a bad one that you have to spend to get all in on recruiting. Now that we spent those points in tactician, we can unlock the strategist skill, and that is easily the biggest compliment that you're going to have in recruiting. So if you want to go all in on your recruiting, you don't need to look much further than this corner of the spider graph. And in strategist, for all these positions, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, O-line, special teams, DBs, linebackers, and D-line, all those tiers are just even more bumps to the recruiting process, be it their complimentary visits, be it impact quarterbacks coming, be it the other schools and how they're approaching the recruiting process. And then in tier 4, that is huge. The mind reader, which gives you a chance, and at least an increased chance, to learn the dev trait of these players. And I have learned through 15 years of Dynasty, you want to be chasing the players with elite dev traits. I've had 5-star recruits that are normal dev trait that played well enough, and they just don't go up dev trait. It's very finicky, so you outright want to find, especially when you're a small school, and you're going with that long-term, that long approach, finding through the 3-stars that might have an elite dev trait, that is going to be gigantic for your program, and I think more so impactful than any game day boost, any boost to tackling. I think being able to slowly and efficiently find the elite dev traits, the impact dev trait players during the recruiting process, hand in hand with all these other recruiting boosts, that is the meta, in my opinion, for your College Football 25 Dynasty Coach tree. All right, so for this example, you're committing to being the ultimate recruiter. You're working on your top 5 class. You're going to have all recruiter unlocked. You're going to go all in on strategist. You have a little points here in tactician. Well, what about all these other abilities? You have architect. You have program builder. You have talent developer. What about those? So quickly, I want to break down the rest of the skill trees with our level 50 Tom Savage coach here. We have motivator, who much like tactician and recruiting is a starting point, but we kind of broke it down where ultimately the best value of this is you get your in-season XP gains, your injury boost, your off-season XP boost for your training. As you go through, you get just faster recovery from injury. You can help with the wear and tear system a little bit if you notice that it's pretty difficult. But ultimately for me, I don't think there's enough value in this motivated tree. And again, a lot of it just comes down to value. You have the architect tree here, and this was one that I unlocked a little bit later on for these boosts to just not offer insane value. I was already like a 90 overall program, so all these different positional boosts where you get additional XP for in-game goals, increased skill cap and leveling up, XP boost every 3-game win streak, increase the best skill cap with a conference or national title. Like, I just do not see a whole lot of value there. And value is a key word when you're talking about the Dynasty skill trees here in College Football 25, because there's only so many points that you can earn before you hit that cap, so you need to make sure you're getting the most value possible. I want to talk about program builder. This is the mistake that I think, in hindsight, I made in my original playthrough here with Tom Savage, reaching level 50, accomplishing everything he did over a 10-year dynasty. It is the second most expensive tree to unlock. All these other ones are 10 or 15. It's 20, CEO is 30. But in Program Builder, I don't think I got a lot of value here as well. For the different upgrades here, you get this one, stability improvements, but by the time you're able to unlock it, I don't think you're really worried about your stability with the school that you're at. You have set the tone, which is essentially for home field advantages. I guess if you're struggling with those, there could be some value there, but not for me. Roster retention. Now, I would say it wouldn't be bad unlocking tier 1. I have noticed the trend during players, trying to persuade them to return to school. A lot of the first, second rounders, they're already gone. You don't have a great chance of trying to get them to stay regardless of whatever boost you may get. But third, seventh rounds are pretty common. I would always make the argument they're more common, that third, fourth round bubble. So that best advice could be nice. Players less likely to transfer. That's good, but I will say I did not, over 15 years of Dynasty, experience a whole lot of scenarios where my team was getting depleted to the transfer portal. And I had a lot of really good freshmen, sophomores, red shirts that should probably have transferred, didn't. So again, not a crazy amount of value there. Run it back's pretty good with second round projections. We have high integrity. This is for the transfer portal. This is for the draft, but again, just didn't experience a whole lot of big time players. Sometimes there'd be the occasional like redshirt sophomore that was like an 89 overall that would leave. That'd be a bummer, but not enough to say that this was a pressing need. Faster progression's always pretty good, but again, when I unlocked this, I was always already far. I was like level like 40, I guess, for my coach, so I didn't really feel like I needed much more help earning XP. I felt like it was in a really good spot. I did end up spending points here, essentially to boost my recruiting. We have pipeline recruiting for strong roots, which I went all the way down. We have relationship builder. And honestly, I only spent these points when I was trying to get the #1 recruiting class, because it is difficult to get the #1 recruiting class in the nation. But I think overall, I wish I didn't spend any, because these are expensive too. These are 12-point upgrades as opposed to some of the 5-point upgrades you've already seen. So I do think in a alternate universe, if there was an option to kind of refund points, I definitely would have got the 36 over 72 points spent in a program builder. I 100% would have spelt that elsewhere. So we've broken down every skill tree except one, and this is where we come back to learning from C4. Don't make the same mistake I did. We have 72 points spent in program builder because I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought, oh my god, it's a higher unlock. It's got to be good. I 100% wish I could have refunded 72 points that I spent into program builder, which would give me 83 total with the 11 I have remaining, and pump that all into talent developer. It's all about finding the best value, the best bang for your buck, and that is what you get in talent developer. We have it broken down by all these different positions, but essentially what you get here is, in the first tier, it's a transfer portal boost. So by all these different positions, you're going to get a more interested bump in the transfer portal. Now, one thing I've noticed when it comes to the transfer portal, if you watch my Florida Gators rebuild, is let's just say the top 10 recruits. I was a undefeated national champion, and I might have the 4th and 7th recruit are the only ones interested in joining my program. The first 5, for example, 1 through 5, they're just locked. I have no chance at even talking to these guys trying to get them to come. So I would wonder, I'm throwing out the question, that if you unlock this interest, maybe you're going to have more top tier players available to you in the transfer portal than what I was getting in my big 10-year Florida Gator rebuild. So for that, there's value there. The second tier is interest boosts for your recruiting. So you get 2 double recruiting boosts. And then tier 3 and tier 4 is player development boost. You are getting lower rated quarterbacks, so that means your freshmen and sophomores and even your juniors. All these guys that aren't playing are going to be more developed and ready to go when it's their time to start. Do it to, your senior graduating or a guy leaving to the league, versus getting to that point where you now have a guy that just hasn't really developed at all because he's been rotting away at the bottom of your depth chart. So you're going to get buffs for all these different positions for the lower rated players to progress faster. And then you get all the way down to tier 4, which is just a straight up, your starting players get more XP. So I think pound for pound, amongst all of the different the trees here, motivator, architect, program builder, CEO, scheme guru, strategist, elite recruiter, talent developer is the most bang for your buck, and I would 100% work my way trying to unlock that and spending your points there. And you're able to unlock that by having 2 players drafted in the first round, which is difficult, right? You're gonna probably have to wait a little bit there, but that's gonna come hand in hand with recruiting. So you start by getting your recruiting platform. The base of your tree is your recruiting. You're eventually going to get those big time players that are going to go in the first round. Spending 25 points in motivator, not the end of the world. You got to spend 10 to unlock it, and then I would go, honestly, you could just quickly spend through all these different ones that give you the XP boost for when your players are drafted in the first 3 rounds. Ultimately, though, I would almost say it is not a terrible decision if you're unlocking motivator to work all your way down to tier 3 and get those off-season trading boosts. Especially, if you're thinking about just value, obviously quarterback is positional value, but if you're thinking for bang for your buck, receiving game, you get your wide receiver and tight ends will get off-season trading boost, so that's 2 positions. For O-line, getting an off-season trading boost, that's 5 positions that are all getting bumped up. Same with defensive line, you're getting your 2 defensive ends, you're getting your D tackle, so there is great value in the tier 3 spot here in motivator. But if we're talking end game, right? Program builder, end game, you're not going to hit that till probably year 5. CEO, clearly end game, because you're not going to be able to unlock that till you get 2 national championships. Talent developer is going to be a little bit end game, unless you're on a big program, because you do need to get those 2 first rounders here in Tulane. That's going to be very difficult to do. But I would view these 3 as kind of the tippy top of the mountain of your skill tree. 100% talent developer is where you should go. So the final element of your coaching skill tree is, well, all right, C4, I can't unlock everything. There's a limited amount of points, but I kind of want more, right? Like, I'm here end game. I still have so many things like talent development. I have nothing in there. I want all these. How can you get more abilities? What is the workaround? Well, that is where your offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator come in. In a perfect world, and what I kind of thought, this was my final coordinator, is like, well, I didn't do a whole lot of points in the motivator. So I'm going to get my OC and DC prioritizing and motivator. And these play, as they get better, obviously they're going to unlock. You can't control what they unlock. So even though it says upgrade price 15 points, you can't spend anything for your offensive and defensive coordinator skill trees. But they, much like you, they earn XP and they unlock. Look, I got full max motivator for our offensive coordinator. And our defensive coordinator, we're looking more on the tactician side, full on tactician. I'm trying to get complementary coordinators to what I am trying to build. I will also say I have never seen a coordinator that came in with talent developer. It's obviously something that's there, but I'm going to imagine that's kind of like a god role. That is the OC and or DC of all OCs and DCs. But in the perfect way, again, if we are going with the idea that you want to be the recruiter, and in a perfect way, let's just act like we're a little bit endgame and your tree's kind of flushed out. I went heavy on recruiting, heavy on strategist, and I correctly didn't waste my points in program builder, and I went talent developer. Well, that means motivator, architect, and scheme guru. I'm going to be a little light for my head coach tree, so you want to prioritize and get that balance that your OC and DC are going to be set up to really get your points in motivator, architect, or tactician, which I have shown here. But it's all about finding that balance. And I'll tell you, if you ever hit the open market when it comes time, when to manage your staff and the coaching carousel is open, and you see a talent developer-based coordinator, you don't walk, you run, and you hire that man. So there you have it, fellas. That is as good of a coaching skill tree guide that I can drop. I don't think there's anything I missed. I would say, regardless if you're starting as a head coach or an offensive or defensive coordinator, like regardless of where you're starting your journey, it's still the same process. You still have to pick. If I'm an OC, you still have the option. Are you going to be a recruiter? Are you going to be a motivator? Are you going to be a tactician? So it's the exact same kind of process as you work your way through the coaching carousel, up through the ranks from OC to eventually become a head coach. But if there is any other questions that you want to know about the coaching skill tree that I may have missed, feel free to let me know in the comment section below, and I will try to answer it to the best of my abilities. I'm also going to have a breakdown of what I've learned through the recruiting process and drop a recruiting tips and tricks video on how you can not only dominate the recruiting process, but get the #1 ranked recruiting class. So that video is either already uploaded or will be coming very, very soon. As always, if it is your first time stopping by, we are in year 10 here on the YouTube channel. So I would very much appreciate you guys hitting the subscribe button if you enjoyed what you see, hitting that like button for the old YouTube robots to help the channel out, because we are trying our best. You're in year 10. We put in the time. It'd be pretty cool if this would be the year the channel pops off a little bit. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And until next time, it's your boy C4 saying peace out. Love ya. Have a good one.